anyway, it's been since September 9th until this morning. We didn't see any Stones Woman. And I don't know what was going on because we were obviously producing a lot of stuff that we were doing. But today we're going to discuss that at length. What happened to Stones Woman from September 9th? Did she go back to the reservation or what?
Well, you're not the first person to ask that question, and I understand the responsibility that authors have to their readership. I really do, and I, uh, like most authors, don't communicate with my readership as much as I should or in the way that I should. But I really don't know how I would go about doing that. But let me offer an apology for those of you who waited for um, a chapter to come out for so long, and let me also express my appreciation to you for being loyal readers. I really do appreciate that. And now to answer your question, what happened was this. Um, it had nothing to do with my personal life. It had absolutely nothing to do with any factor other than this, and that is that uh, I conceived of the idea as I was writing in the last chapter of the book of bringing uh, the Mormon Church more fully into focus in the book. And I'm not a Mormon, uh, uh, but our trip up to Utah was very eye-opening for me, and I saw something that I really had not been able to see before, and that is that uh, the Mormon religion is just another pathway to the Creator.
I think so too. We I noticed today too, and I did help with the edit and some of the fact searching. I am descended from Porter Rockwell, and the reason I am part of his family is that Porter's mother was Sarah Jane Witt Rockwell from the Massachusetts area, as was Silas Witt, who's my direct ancestor. But I'm surrounded by Latter Day Saints, my in-laws and outlaws and all that. But when you go up there and you're actually where Porter hung out, and you meet people and you hear things and everything, and it's a very profound man. That's why we included him into this. Um, and the Mormons believe that we have guardian angels that walk around among us. And normally I would laugh that off and everything, but I had an incident. I've had two incidents that happened to me. One was when Puck went on her little walkabouts, and nobody could find her. And I cried out to Heavenly Father while I was circling the neighborhood to help find my little girl. And I heard in my head, turn here. And I turned, and there she was. The other thing, when I was in Brigham City, I was taking uh, two of the boys, back to the boys club. Now, Mormon addresses are not like 123 Main Street. It's XYZ times ZYX where the brown dog used to lay. And if you get like the center of town where the temple is the starting point, 100 by 100, south, west, north, up. I spent an hour looking for a liquor store in a 2 block area because there were four addresses that were exactly the same.
Well, this is why General Johnson and 5,000 U.S. soldiers couldn't find the Temple Square.
That's right.
Literally, well, when President Buchanan sent 5,000 U.S. troops to capture the Temple Square, they couldn't find it. They literally couldn't find it. What Billy is saying is right. It's true. Um, the Mormon religion has, as any religion has, a number of flaws. Any monotheistic religion is going to have flaws in it. You just have to try to plug holes that the explanation of something that is absent our senses ability to detect is going to make for loopholes. The Christian Bible is full of it. The Torah is full of it. The Quran is full of it. All these errors that that didn't. I think the Talmud was probably where the Talmudic conventions were probably where they were trying to plug those holes,
Right.
but they failed. miserably in doing
Well,
so. But
people get to hating, and
well, that's true.
I've seen with the Mormon people when I wrote the article while I was there. The first article I wrote in Utah was, Joseph, did you know we was all going to ride the train? Because even though I wasn't Mormon, I did want to see the temple and everything. And I noticed that they still had trains that run right downtown, taking people to work. And even if you don't believe in their religion, you cannot drive the 60 miles from Salt Lake City to Brigham City and look at all the industry and think these people are 100% bad and wrong.
Well, you know, to go back to your question and follow that segue, it took from September 9th until the middle of January for me to figure out how to objectify the Mormon religion in such a way that a person reading about it for the first time might be able to see it as a legitimate religion. For instance, um, for most people that I've had interviews with, that I've talked to, one of the most difficult parts for people to move past is that no evidence of a Torah was found when they dug up
The Golden Tablets.
the golden tablet.
Well, there was, we discussed this yesterday, there was, I believe, in a statement that when Joseph translated the tablets that he translated, he said himself that there was much more.
Mm-hmm.
There would be another volume, much more.
Right.
And I think that when Moroni etched his golden tablets, the much more probably includes a golden copy of his Torah. Because if he was a obedient Jew, he had to have the 5 books of Moses.
That's the tack I'm taking. Although I would rather look at it this way, and that is, you are an ecumenical minister of the Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were ministering and witnessing to other people as a Catholic minister, when it came time to look at highly unbelievable things like, let's just say, Moses parting the Red Sea, did you turn a hair?
Exceedingly.
Did you? Did you question that real deeply?
While I was working with Susan Skinto, one of her problems with the church was she didn't believe unbelievable things.
Mm-hmm.
And she would question their motives. Like
Right.
in the family chapel at St. Joseph's, according to the beliefs of the Catholic Church, the Eucharist is where the Holy Wafer actually becomes, in some mystical way, the body of Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
So you got this Ritz cracker that before this mess is over, it's going to turn into Jesus Christ. And in the family chapel, they kept the urn back by the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would bring the urn forward and the priest would do his thing. And she said, why in the world would you put the body of our Lord next to the restroom? And they didn't have an explanation, nothing like that. There was questions about our relationship. I never met Susan outside of church property. That was the rule. But the deacons and everything thought there was something wrong and everything, and she simply challenged them all the time. And yes, I did question a lot of things. We were expected to believe that Mary assumed directly into heaven. We were expected to believe every word the Pope says, if he's sitting in the chair, is absolutely true. And also confession. I learned something the other night. We were talking about that highly sensitive subject, and I made an admission and everything. Once you tell another person that you've made a mistake, that leaves you.
That's correct. It doesn't belong to just you anymore.
That's right. You don't have to carry
Right.
it. So I know confession works. The funniest confession I ever saw, well, it was not funny that what I said, but when Joseph died, he had to take the extreme unction, the last rites, and within an hour of his death. And he sat up in the bed, and the priest said, what are your sins? And he wanted me to be there, which is highly unusual. Okay. He said, actually, It's nothing, Father. I don't have any. And I looked at him and said, Joe, you ain't got no sins? Oh, man, borrow some of mine.
Yeah.
He
Well,
sat there and fed that little dog them damn chicken wings till he died.
well, um, I have, my mind keeps going over and over a little piece of conversation between Joseph Smith and Porter Rockwell, in which Joseph Smith tells Porter uh, that faith is what is needed for a man's real feet to follow a real path. And that's just that's absolutely true. The 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 core of any religion is going to be its ability to reach and utilize the faith that all of us have inside of us,
Mhm.
and to keep us on one path or another. Now, uh, to put it as succinctly as I know how, the mission of any religion is to lead the individual to the Creator, back to the Creator, back to the Creator that made us.
Well, what the Mormon faith teaches, and now our LDS friends are always real quick to say, if you're not a Mormon, you shouldn't be talking about these things you don't understand.
Yeah, well,
But basically, what Joseph is trying to
too bad.
explain, what he believed, was that everybody, all souls were created at once.
Mhm.
And we all lived in heaven with Heavenly Father. And Jesus and the devil got into a contention about how uh, they were going to purify these souls.
Hmm.
So they came up with the idea that since we were all stained, pretty much, Jesus came down and did his thing. So the idea that the Mormons, they exist as a spirit, they come to earth and inhabit a body.
Hmm.
They make corrections in, I guess, deficiency of their soul or whatever, and then if they obey the covenant, then they get to go back to one of two or three levels of heaven.
Hmm.
The highest being the celestial kingdom. And people will say, well, you know, they'll cite the Bible and all that. And see, that's the worst thing in the world. That you said I have questions. Yes, I wrote the book Sharon. Read it, okay?
I did.
All right, there's questions. Um, you get these evangelicals challenging Mormonism. And how are they challenging Mormonism? And a bunch of teeth are about to hit the floor. First thing you do is grab the King James Bible and start thumping on it like this is absolute positive proof what I'm saying is true. Well, you got a Mormon missionary sitting there thumping on the Book of Mormon saying exactly the same thing. Neither one of them can prove a thing. What they're saying is, my invisible guy in the sky can whip your invisible guy in the sky.
Hmm.
And Christopher Hitchens is still laughing in his grave.
Well, the way I look at it is that I don't look at my readership as a group of a certain number of people. I don't see my readers as a group of people who read my work. I see my readers the same way I see my characters, and that is I view them as individuals.
Mhm.
So I don't want to promote or proselytize anybody with this book. What I want is I want each individual reader to take to be able to take something from what I'm writing that helps them by either by comparison with your own beliefs or by considering a new belief to continue walking your path toward the Creator, because that's really what we're all doing in one way or another. Even atheists are doing that.
In the book Sharon, Sharon tells the preacher that everybody has a belief. That even the atheist, enjoying a walk through the mountains,
Hmm.
he is praying. He's praying in his own way. Now, I personally believe there's a creative force in the universe,
Hmm.
okay? Because it's too complicated. You cannot look at a strand of DNA and think it wasn't designed.
Hmm.
And for everything that we can do, from brewing this beer right here to making the iPhone and everything, all we do is rearrange atoms. We still can't create a leaf,
No,
and we never will.
no. We can't make carbon
No,
But we can rearrange carbon molecules
right.
and mix them with other molecules. This is true. Um, so essentially, uh, I, have I answered your question?
pretty much. I think the advent of the Rockwell character in the book is wonderful. Number one, it it wakes people up who never heard of him. They're
Right,
hearing Wild Bill Hickok and
right.
Billy the Kid and everything. This guy was a magnum. He was about. That's the funniest thing he said. I think he tried to kill the governor of Wisconsin or something. Blew his old landing. I don't know. But anyway, come to trial.
Right.
And Ashby said, "Did you threaten to kill the governor?" And he said, "I did not." How can you prove that? Now Porter wasn't educated enough to know that's trying to prove a negative. But he said, "How can you prove that?" He said, "He's alive, ain't he? I never shot at anybody.
Right.
If I shot them, they got shot."
Well, I'm hoping too, uh, uh, in further chapters to awaken my readers to this notion, and that is faith has its positive side. Faith will get you through times when nothing else will get you through. Faith is a reasonably good substitute for alcohol and drugs.
Mhm.
And so I want my readers to see faith as a good thing, but I also want them to see that it also holds many dangers. I'll give you a good example of this. You are a Trumper, so you have faith in Trump
I'm a trouble.
as he stumbles and falls and creates nightmarish
I think it's inappropriate.
problems.
I think
You
it's
still
inappropriate you be sitting on my right side when you say this.
I'd say it if I was on your left side.
I'm sorry. Please
You
continue.
know, and this is not meant to offend in any way.
I want
What
you
I'm
guys to
saying
notice
is,
we're not arguing.
listen,
I've seen people go crazy on the internet because somebody voiced a political opinion.
when Billy says something or when I say something, that does not represent the views of the butcher shop.
Yep.
We are the butcher shop,
Yep.
or we're part of the butcher shop. But it is what I but this is my opinion, and Billy has his own, and they're different. However, we're having a civil conversation about it.
Well, I said something when we were getting ready to make this show. We were talking about the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And I said I wouldn't say this in public, and I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
When publicly on Doc Green show and all that, oh yeah, let's build the wall, make it 20 feet high. Yeah. Privately, and right now, I'm from Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I don't give a damn about that silly ass wall. These Yankees act like they just discovered the term wetback.
That's true, and by the way, you really should leave the Yankees, give them second place now, because really, most of what you see, the pressure that you see coming from, I guess we'll shift gears here now.
Okay.
Most of the pressure that you see that is coming politically from the left is coming from literally from the left. It's coming from California. California.
California is on the left side of the United States.
Exactly, and unless you're in Canada looking down, but the California just got through. It's actually still in the throes of a bloody war between the populist Democrats and the Wall Street Democrats. Now, the populist Democrats are people who just they range from people who want to open America's arms wide and follow the dictates of what sit at the base of the Statue of Liberty, to people like myself who simply want the unions to have the freedom to come back and operate without the state being a de facto union for the employers, which is exactly what we have. We have a situation where the labor is not allowed to have representation, but the employees have representative, and it's called, the state. The government, the federal government and the state government stand squarely in the way of the worker getting any help. When's the last time you got a raise? When is the last time you got a cost of living adjustment in your Social Security? It's been forever. And jobs are not appearing, they're disappearing. And when jobs do appear, they're lower paying jobs and they're more menial, and usually they're snapped up by illegals. So we're in a terrible pickle in this country. We created it ourselves because we had faith in our politicians, which we should not have done. We should have stayed involved. We should have stayed engaged. We should, you know, I doubt very seriously if there's anybody listening to this broadcast that actually has run for any position,
No.
or actually been involved in a campaign, or been in, or can even name any of your representatives under your U.S. senator or congressman. That's simply the case.
You know,
Yeah, you don't know. You don't know. You don't know what they.
and look what the thing I was reading when you drove up. 30 Democratic congressmen are right now vacationing in Puerto Rico, enjoying the sun.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
I think that's
I
wonderful.
hope they have a good weekend.
In sunny Puerto Rico, where actually things are cheaper now than they ever were before since the hurricane wiped them out.
Right.
You know.
Your government is out of control. Ted and I, when we went to Utah last year, what we were doing up there was part of a government that was out of control. They were out there buying and selling.
That is correct.
Buying and selling little girls.
That is correct. Well, what they were doing was they were using the Constitution as a doormat, and wiping their shoes on it. It was the most unconstitutional mess I've ever seen in my life, and simple practical application of constitutional privileges is the way for most people to handle trouble in their lives. For instance, let's say you get pulled over by a police officer and the guy starts asking you a lot of questions. Well, the Constitution says you have the ability to not say anything. So just don't say anything. That the simple application of that one constitutional privilege could save you a lot of trouble.
Even the question is, where are you going?
Right.
Where are you coming from?
I take the fifth.
I'm not comfortable with that, officer.
Yeah.
You know, I might be coming from.
And then just shut up.
Yeah, what was that old Chappie? One of our other writers put a joke up on his page. Says a cop trying to get some DWI arrests after the bars closed, pulled up in the parking lot by a biker bar, and in a minute, an old biker comes stumbling out, trips over one of the concrete things, tries his key in several motorcycles where it fits one, can't start it up, and lays his head down on his handlebars like he's passed out. And while he's doing it, the other bikers are coming out and looking at him like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, you know, and they all take off and everything. And finally, when everybody's gone, the cop goes over there and makes his arrest. The guy raises his and take a breathalyzer test. So he blows a perfect 0.0. The cop says, you're not drunk. And I don't drink. What are you? He said, I'm the decoy.
Right. You're that's a pretty good joke. But Chappie tells good jokes.
Good jokes.
I think that we're going to have to. I want to shift gears again out of this. I want to talk about kind of vis-a-vis the struggle in California. Okay, the populist Democrats have gained the upper hand in California, and I, for one, am happy to see that. I've come on and talked about a political co-op, and it took me a little while to realize this. I like the idea of a political cooperative, but I like the idea of a political cooperative the same way I like the idea of a beautiful girl. It seems like an ideal thing, but it'll never happen.
Well, this is what we were talking about earlier. We've got to get past this nonsense of, I'm a Republican, therefore I must be a conservative. You are a Democrat, therefore you have to be a liberal.
But what does that mean?
Well, it's like I said.
What does it mean for you to be a conservative? What does that actually mean? Are you against unions?
No, against unions?
Yeah.
No.
Do you want to kill Social Security?
No.
Do you want to give Israel more money?
Well, you don't go mess with the Jews without no money.
Well, now you were talking about you were talking about how it is that the LDS don't like us talking about the Mormon religion, but actually that's not factual. That's not completely true. A vocal minority among the LDS would prefer that other people not discuss the Mormon religion, but most Mormons don't care. A vocal minority among blacks, among women, among gays, among any group of people who have been marginalized in an institutional way, and we do that. We institutionally marginalize people in this country. Mexicans, there's going to be a vocal minority who is going to say, "You're not allowed to talk about that." Now, this happened to Doc Green.
He damn sure did.
This happened to Doc Green on Friday.
He made say something about the gays. This is gonna be a good broadcast. We have a friend of ours called Sonny. He died about 3 or 4 months ago. He's about almost 70 years old and everything. Died of cancer, all that kind of stuff. And Sonny was as queer as a $3 bill. He was lived with the same man for 45 years, Michael. And Michael was one of the directors of the American Red Cross. His job was to get food to children in disaster areas. Sonny tagged along with him his whole life. Michael dropped dead on him about 3 or 4 years ago. He was 84 years old. He was picking vegetables in a church garden for the homeless.
He was a great guy, and it was a sad time when he
It
died.
really was. And Sonny, because of the laws of the state of Texas, Sonny being a gay man, had no rights. No rights, not even to the truck that Michael owned.
Now, they were partners.
Yeah.
They lived together.
That's
They met the condition of common law marriage
Absolutely.
in the state of Texas perfectly, and yet Sonny had no rights, and they told him to his face.
He had a flatbed
because
truck.
you're
Yep, that's right.
because you're gay.
That's right.
You have no legal right.
That's right. So us, Ted, me, Chris, Summer, the group.
A lot of people.
A lot of people. We call ourselves faggots and maggots.
What's his name? Ernest.
Ernest.
Yeah.
We gathered around Sonny and we held him up.
And Cowboy.
We gathered around on Sonny and we took care of him till the day he died. And Sonny.
Which wasn't an easy thing to do with
See
Sonny.
this wall behind me, folks? See that curtain? Sonny did that. Okay? These chairs we're sitting in, he did that. The paint on the walls, he did that. We really did have 2 fires here. No matter what some people may say, there was 2 disastrous fires, and this place has been rebuilt.
And it was a good thing he had us too, because in a straight world, the last thing that anybody wants, the last thing that the institution wants, is for you to be free. I mean, that is one thing you're just not allowed to be. If you remember the movie Cool Hand Luke, in Cool Hand Luke, that guy kept getting punished over and over and over again, simply because he was living as a free man inside a prison. And they couldn't tolerate it. They couldn't tolerate his being free. And Sonny Ray, they simply couldn't take, "I'm Sonny Ray." They couldn't tolerate it.
He'd do that. He'd say, we run out of beer, run out of cigarettes, whatever. He said, "I know where they sell them."
Yeah.
And he looked like, when he was younger, I seen pictures, he looked like Sal Mineo.
With a little curl on his head.
Yeah, a little curl on his head and everything. But as he got older, he looked like an old Texan.
Yeah, well, like we all do when we get older.
But he said, people are always making fun of me, but I just look like this.
Well, I want to talk about Doc's show for a minute.
Yes.
Because as I said, within each minority there will be a very vocal minority and a silent majority. Mm-hmm. And the vocal minority is going to come out and say, "You're not allowed to talk about us." I can't count the times that I've been called an anti-Semite because I'll just come out and talk about things that Jewish people do, that Israel does. And now, no, I'm not allowed to talk about them, you see, because I'm not a Jew. If I were a Jew, it would be perfectly fine for me to come out and talk, but to this vocal minority. But the silent majority of Jews don't care. The silent majority of Jews are not professional Jews, but you've got people who are professional black people. You got professional women who are professional women. Now, I don't mean that like they're a lawyer. I mean that by their profession is they're a woman.
Me too.
You know.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Well, you know, and so that they'll say, well, men can't speak for us. Well, that's nonsense. That's nonsense. I'll tell you right now, who I don't want speaking for me is somebody who's irrational. That's who I don't want speaking for me. But for heaven's sake, you and I, all of us, live by laws that are passed by men and women in legislative settings.
Well,
So
us guys, like me and Ted, being white, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, Catholic, whatever, we don't have an organization. We need to have one. I was suggesting one time we have the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Cracker People.
cracker people. That's me. I'm a cracker.
Well, yeah, we don't. They imagine that we're running the world. They imagine that white men run the world, when in point of fact, there's more Chinese in the world than anybody else.
You know, this is a good this is a good time for me to ask all of you a question. You're here. I'd like to hear your answer, and I'd love to hear from anybody out there who can answer this. Beto O'Rourke was elected in Texas. Was defeated in Texas by Ted Cruz by a margin of what, 600 votes, something like that.
Very low margin.
Well, one of the votes that that Beto didn't get counted was mine. I'll never quit bitching about this. The state of Texas threw my vote out because they said that the signature on the envelope didn't match the signature on the ballot. And when I went down to the office where the precinct when I went down to the office who was accountable for this, I spoke to a gentleman who said, well, he said, you must have voted. He said, so this is an early vote that got thrown out. And I said, yes. And he said, well, you must have voted Democrat. And I said, well, what does that have to do anything with anything? And he said, well, in Texas, the Republicans count the votes. Now, I found that tremendously offensive, and it really made me mad. And it made me, and it gave me good reason to think that it was a dirty election. You know, that they went through and counted and just took all the early votes or absentee votes or whatever that had been made by Democrats and knocked them off. I actually believe that now, even though I don't know it to be true. I believe it to be true. Now, I actually believe in the application. Now, what I believe is in having something that you can hold on to. When I listened to Beto O'Rourke's speeches, he spoke about unions. He spoke about bringing unions back to Texas. He spoke about raising the minimum wage. He spoke about improving education in clear terms that made a lot of sense. And he started talking about lowering the taxes on poor people and raising the taxes on rich people. And these are all things that I find myself very happy to, I would love to see these things. Now, I know a lot of you are saying, oh, you want to raise the taxes on the rich so you can give people who don't deserve it free crap. Well, that isn't true. That's actually not true. I want to give them things that they need because they're American citizens. That's not free. Being an American citizen is not free, but there are far too many people who take that privilege for granted, and they treat everything that they get as an American citizen as if it's their due without giving anything back. But it would be real nice as if one of you guys that voted for Ted Cruz could call me or email me or send the Butcher Shop a message or put it on the Peckerwood Press. What has Ted Cruz done for you? Now, Billy, what's Ted Cruz ever done for you?
Give me a minute.
I'll bet that's what you're all doing. You're going, oh, wait a minute, there's
I was really searching my mind, you know.
oh, you gotta add all to
I-
all,
I-
and
I
subtract
did
all,
right
and
when we
divide
was
by all, you know.
When we were going through the CPS thing down here, I did write a letter to John Cornyn, and he pulled the Puerto Rican response on me.
Yeah,
Not my job, man.
exactly.
They
Cornyn
are
is
stealing our children
Cornyn.
and selling them. Not my job, man.
Cornyn, yes, that's right. Cornyn is the poster boy for what is wrong with the Senate. I'm telling you, the guy has been known to reverse his position 3 times in the same day. Literally reverse his position 3 times in the same day. 1 minute President Trump's a fumbling, incompetent boob, and the next minute, you know, he's the right guy to lead us to, you know, to the
flies
moon.
to McAllen, Texas, and calls on him to talk. at the
That's
rally.
exactly right.
You were the greatest president in the world. I don't know how we ever got along without you, and we're going to get all these Mexicans and Jesus Cross.
Right, that's exactly right. And in the meantime, you know, he's sitting over there in the Senate, you know, trying to, he believe you me, he supports the government shutdown, that guy. He likes the government shutdown. During the period of time that the government is shut down, there's going to be more thievery that takes place than you will believe. The thieves come out, the sun's gone down, and it's dark, and the thieves are out stealing right now.
Hey, the national parks are being shut down.
They are.
You want to see
They
corruption?
cut down a bunch of Joshua trees.
They haven't turned Old Faithful off yet, and I think there's a conspiracy there.
I might be. You know, speaking of the Russian government, this is another thing too. There are people on the internet, I'm not kidding you, just for comic relief, I want to tell you this, who are trying to rehabilitate Joe McCarthy's image. But the way they're doing it is the way they're doing it, they're going about doing it, is that is that he made some predictions about homosexuals would take over Hollywood, and liberals would infest the government, and communists would take over, and I think this is hilarious because he would be flipping over in his grave that our president is having secret meetings with the Russians, and believe you me, they're secret. Any notes, even handwritten, he took all his handwritten notes from his meetings with Putin and burned them so his senior staff wouldn't have access to them. That's not that I didn't make that up. That's true. He is chummy with the North Koreans.
Well, you know what happened?
We buy all our stuff from China.
You know what brought McCarthy down?
Communism.
You know what broke his back?
What's that?
A Texan, Howard Hughes. Howard Hughes had a manager named Maxwell, I believe, who attended some communist meetings. And McCarthy had a way of browbeating people.
Oh, yeah.
And he brought Howard Hughes there. And Howard had been in a psychotic break for like 6 weeks, peeing in milk jugs and stuff, but he cleaned up, shaved, went over there. And at one point, they had Maxwell on the stand for a while, and he went back to California. Howard showed up to answer the Senate subcommittee. And McCarthy said, Mr. Maxwell work for you? Yes, he does. And Howard had that twang to his voice. Well, can you have him back here? Well, you just had him here this morning. Will you have him back here this afternoon? You mean like today? Yeah. No, I don't believe I'm going to do that, sir. That was the end of McCarthy's. Right there. Everybody in the room laughed.
Well, it was about time too. You know, McCarthy was on the edge of dragging the party into absolute oblivion.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, everybody wanted to get rid of McCarthy. It's going to be like the end of this term for Trump. Everybody.
Did you notice?
You know.
Did you notice? I saw a picture of, we were talking about Ted Cruz. He's now got a beard.
Yeah, that little
yeah.
that little Mexican looking.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say that. Yeah, I mean, he looks like he's about to yell "Viva Zapata."
Yeah, he does, La Raza. You know, well.
And here's George Rodriguez, you know, clean shaved, nice looking guy.
I figure this way: the next time he has to be in a debate or something, and a booger starts to slide down his lip, it'll just get caught in the mustache, and you won't have to worry about it. You know, instead of licking it off his face. Sorry, it never gets old. So anyway, this pushback that is coming from the left is genuine, and we ought to be concerned about it. As a former Democrat, I've changed my allegiance to the Tea Party, as has Billy, because the parties are too polarized right now. We what it is it's like we set off a nuclear bomb, and now the Democrat and Republican are radioactive. And I don't know what the half life on this is going to be, but
Well,
you know,
like I said, we are Tea Party. We just slowly move toward the center of that, and the members of the butcher shop are all Tea Party, and our opinions are different. You know, I like some of Bernie Sanders' ideas. I like Bernie Sanders' idea about college. We've gone through years and years and years where free high school education. High school is worthless. Worthless.
mm-hmm.
You don't learn to do a damn thing in high school now. How about free high school and then at least 2 years of trade or college? At least 2 years. So when you come out of school,
Mm-hmm.
you can say, okay, I can go get a job. You know, the only thing I learned to do in high school, and this is the gospel truth, is I learned to type. The only thing I've ever made money from is the ability to type on typewriter. That's it.
You didn't learn how to get away with smoking in the
Oh yeah,
bathroom or
yeah.
anything like that. I learned a lot of stuff in high school.
Well, I learned survival techniques.
I graduated.
I used to. Everybody was always when the teacher would bust in the bathroom and the smoke just reeks out, and it worked. Woo, woo, you were trying to get rid of the cigarette. I just flip it over a stall.
Yeah.
You know, and it worked real good until it landed on the guy.
Yeah, poor devil. Well, you know, yeah.
He said the M word. He said the M word too.
And well, who knows what he was doing in there? He might have interrupted something intimate between him and himself. The trouble that the Tea Party got in. I was asked the other day. Well, so you think that by joining the Tea Party you can avoid this? But tell me this: why is it that most of the candidates supported by the Tea Party in the last election, the Tea Party was active in, were Republican? And the answer to that question is that several the Koch brothers and look, when you think dirty money, just think the Koch brothers, okay? They're first off, there's more of them than you think. It's like the Bushes, you know. There's more of them than you think there are, and in the second place, they each manage different umbrella organizations under which are other umbrella organizations which manage think tanks. And God, you cannot believe all of the things that they pour money into that are aimed at changing your opinions. When you see that, when, for instance, the memes of Joe McCarthy, you know, coming out and saying, "Don't say I didn't warn you," you know, that comes from that's Koch brother money right there. The hundreds of millions of dollars, the $4 million that they dumped into Ted Cruz's campaign 4 days before the election, that was Koch brother money. So just you can think of it that way, but it's Republican money, and so the Republicans, we'll just call it the Republicans, put tens of millions of dollars into Tea Party bank accounts, and to be perfectly honest, what happened is after the election was over and Obama won, those same organizations went in and withdrew their money from the Tea Party. The Tea Party's broke, or very nearly broke. But I figure, you know, if the Republicans see another opportunity to do this, they'll do it. Our aim is to take the Tea Party and make it a nonpartisan organization. Now, I've said earlier I like the idea of political cooperative, in which people who belong to it will just vote for whoever it is that is a populist, because that's what you want. Look, I don't care if you've got a $1.5 million house with a swimming pool and three holes of golf on your property. You're still not rich enough that you wouldn't be a populist. You know, it's not until you get to the point that you're making over $1 million a year, and the way you make it is important too. for instance, if you make your money moving money around, then you're probably not going to want to be a populist because you really don't care. I wouldn't think you care a fig for the people in the Congo, for instance, who are dying. You know, literally, I think last week, I think it was 40,000 people died in the Congo from a famine. It was over a 2 week period, but last week they counted it as like 40,000 people. And this is because the Chinese are in the Congo. Everybody's going after the materials that you need for lithium battery, for lithium ion batteries. That's the new big thing. So they think nothing of sending a group of armed teenagers in there to shoot everybody up, and then they come in with the bulldozers and the equipment and remove what they want and move on. And I doubt very seriously that the people who make money on this in the market care one way or the other.
No, and they always hear.
They may be Christians, but they don't
Well,
care.
the children working and building shoes.
That's right. What chained to benches?
And a couple of children died down the border with this caravan thing and all that. A gentleman yesterday I was watching pointed out, as we speak right here, when a criminal is arrested and they have a child there, they lose the child.
Yeah.
While we've been doing this show, it's happened dozens of times.
Yeah, it's happened a lot.
And everything, and they get put in foster homes where they're abused and they're hurt, and they end up with rad and all that kind
Or
of
they get lost.
lost.
They die.
They die.
They get trafficked overseas.
So the children do get abused, and there's no stopping it.
Well, the children can't stop it. That's for sure.
And another thing, you get concerned about things that you have no control over. Shutdown. You say, you know what I said about that wall? Well, I cared about much about that shutdown too.
Well, it makes me. I won't lie. The shutdown makes me angry, and it makes me angry for two specific reasons. One of them is now Americans are going to have to bear at least $10 to $20 billion in costs associated with just money we lost because of the shutdown. So that makes me angry. Every time I think, now it's like, brother, can you spare a billion? We think of billions like they're dimes. A $20 trillion tax break for the rich.
I told you today. I said the way that Trump should have done the wall thing is to say, okay, we're going to do the budget and everything, and in the budget just because how much we spent $1 trillion or whatever on the military, right?
Oh,
Slip $5 billion there and don't tell nobody, and then tell the army to go down there and build that wall.
how many billions of dollars? I don't recall, but there are several. I think there are actually several $100 billion that we don't even know where it went. Pallets of cash disappeared. Nobody knows where it is. Money that was in an account and it's not there anymore, and there's no record of where the money went. So you're telling me that this guy can't get chump change of like $5 billion?
Exactly.
But there's a good reason I think that he's not doing it, and that I think the reason he's not doing it is because he wants his company or some company he owns to build that wall. And brothers and sisters, you tell me when a politician has ever nailed the cost of an operation. Just think about George Bush and the Iraq War and how it was only going to it wasn't even going to cost $1 billion. It was going to cost a few million, and it was going to pay for itself too. That was the next thing. It was going to pay for itself. So they're lying first off when they set a figure like that. Lips moving, they're lying, and the second thing that gives it away as a dead lie is that it'll pay for itself. Now I'm going to tell you something.
And the cats are going to pay for it.
That's right. That's right. I have to tell you one thing. I have a fence around my house, and I can't say that fence is paid for itself. I really can't. I can speculate about what how it might have saved me some money to somewhere. But I can't. But I never actually got a check from my fence to pay for itself.
You know one thing. And I'm not a Nazi before you all start that, but I've always kind of admired Hitler's method of invading countries. He would invade a country, steal all the art, and sell it.
Yeah.
So he did figure a way to pay for the bullet.
He certainly did. If nothing else, he'd just grind people up and sell them for dog food. I mean, you know, we, so, back to this pressure from the left. Why should we be concerned? Well, we should be concerned about it because it's going to create a political crisis. The people on the right now, if Facebook is any indication at all, are absolutely on the edge of violence. I think they're on the edge of violence.
People take Facebook far too serious.
Well, there's a lot of mean things being said.
You know, like I'm involved with Facebook groups. Now, I'm not going to divulge anything here because I'm just don't want to do it. It's not what this is all about. But people take it so serious. Everything. Let me tell you something, fellas. Let me tell you something. Everything you see on Facebook is a lie.
Well, that's like Fox News that way, and CNN.
Everything you
know.
All right, I'll tell you. I'll expand my. Everything you see on a flickering screen
is a lie.
Is a lie.
Except us.
Except us.
We're not lying.
We're not lying. We wouldn't lie to you.
No.
No.
I mean, it's not like we're asking anybody for any money.
No.
So, so anyway, in other words, making the political situation more unstable is not a good thing.
Yeah.
And the amount of force being injected into that from the left is creating greater instability, and it's going to get a lot worse as we drag on toward the next election. A lot worse.
Yeah, we're just too well fed.
We are too well fed for what we do. I speaking of Facebook again, I was listening to a guy talk, and this is a guy who had been in the military, worked until he couldn't work anymore, and he just dead set against Medicare. Now he's glad to get his own Medicare because Medicaid. No, Social Security. He's glad to get his own Social Security because he sees that as the government reimbursing him, you know, for taxes that he paid on his wages. Well, yeah, that's what Social Security is. That's exactly what it is. But he sees it. He somehow can't make himself see that that's what Social Security is. And those of you who are against SSI, because that's giving people free stuff, I've got news for you. You don't know enough old people. You don't know enough disabled people. You don't know enough people who are unable to work. You'll pick some random person out of the crowd that that's getting SSI and cheating or you don't think they deserve it because you worked and even when your foot was hurt or whatever, but I'm telling you, we cannot live in a nation full of beggars. And that's where we're headed.
That was something else. We were talking about this shutdown. No income tax refunds are going out until you get over the shutdown, the Treasury shutdown. That is money that you gave the government to hold for you against possible taxes, okay? And now they've got the money they've been holding for you, but they're not going to give it back. Please tell me you didn't spend my money, Mr. Government. You're still holding it, right? You don't have to get an appropriations bill to give me my own money back.
Yeah, you wouldn't think so.
Fool.
But the first thing, see, if you look at the things that they shut down, with the first 20% of what they shut down, they're things that are important. The Treasury is an important department. I called in the other day because I'm sick of the robocalls, which have just jacked up, to where I'm getting 4 or 5 of them a day. I'm sick of the robocalls, so I visited stopcall.gov, which is where you can go and register to be put on a no-call list, right? Well, I went to that site and it shut down. That site shut down. I can't get the robocallers to stop until such time as,
Well, I think what I can't understand, I'm just a simple old boy from Austin, but the government run out of money and everything, they print the money.
They do.
I mean, they print the money. All you do is print some more money.
Yeah, but I don't know. The Fed controls a lot of that. The and frankly, you talk about mumbo jumbo. I mean, trying to understand the Fed and its policies is pretty hard. Uh, the other part I wanted to talk about the other part of the shutdown that makes me angry. It's not just the money. It's this. Um, we now have a president who is openly saying, "I don't care. I don't care how many people are dying or starving or don't get their money, and I'm gonna get my way. I don't care what the Constitution says. Even though the Constitution says that the Congress makes the laws, you know, I'm simple. Look, the government will not reopen until I get my way. Now, I want to ask you, hard shell conservatives, which you come pretty close to being sometimes, even though you're a former Democrat, I know for a fact. Uh, and that's this. What if the next president we get is a Democrat? And the first day in office he says, I think that climate change is a national crisis. I'm gonna invoke a national crisis, and I'm just going to appropriate the money to pay for climate change, and it's an unspecified dollars. And if I don't get my way, I'm going to shut the government down, and I'll keep it shut down until I get my way. Even though the rest of the people, even though the entire Senate and the Congress may be against it, he'll just keep the government shut down. What then? How would you feel about that?
It will set a dangerous precedent. It could have been done more clever. We're only talking about 285 miles of wall here. Most of the wall's already there.
He could have. He could have done just what you said and reached into the military budget. He could have had Mike Pence do it.
There was a funny picture on Facebook yesterday of a Mexican pickup truck trying to bring drugs into the United States, and it was hung on top of this fence, this wall, and it's there, and they had to run. It was near Alcacita Wells, where I was at.
Yep.
That wall wasn't there when I was there.
Obama built it.
Obama built that wall.
Yeah.
And he built walls all the way across. There's about 285 miles that need to be closed up.
Which Congress then passed a law against him doing it.
Yeah.
Congress passed a law against the wall. They literally did. And Trump's been trying to find a way around it. And he's discovered that the best way for him to get around something is to just do it and dare anybody to say anything or do anything about it.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me, if in watching this Mueller thing play out,
Oh my God.
I think
He's still over there?
his of course
Okay.
Mueller is going to finish his investigation. He's not getting fired. Let me tell you, if Jeff Sessions wasn't going to get rid of Mueller, Lindsey Graham's not going to do it. Lindsey Graham is apparently being tapped for the position of the head of justice to replace Jeff Sessions, who just wasn't enough of Trump's buddy enough. He just wouldn't do everything Trump said.
What the hell happened with Trey Gowdy? Trey Gowdy was a prosecutor. He would be perfect for that job.
Maybe, I don't know. My own feeling about it is that what they probably ought to do is they ought to. I think they probably ought to bring in somebody like Sotomayor. Everybody thinks Sotomayor is a liberal. Let me tell you something. That woman is no liberal. She'd meet pretty high standards for a conservative, but she's a thoughtful person and she does things by the book. She does things, She had been a prosecutor. She'd been a prosecutor more than once. And she'd been a judge more than once. She was a federal judge when they tapped her. So for the Supreme, when she got the Supreme Court. That I think that's probably I think they probably need to get somebody who is set on some district level federal courts. That's what I think. Because those are the people who see the cases before they get to the Supreme Court.
Right.
And they understand those kinds of cases better than I think it's a bad idea to have somebody who's in there just because of their political bias. That's all. Man, I'm going to tell you right now. Lincoln, who was a highly to me, underrated president. I think he's enormously underrated. Um, had enough good sense to bring people in whose political bias was different than his. Now, it hurt us in the end because we got Andrew Johnson, but nobody really expected Lincoln to get his brains blown out,
No,
in Ford's Theater the
never
way
let
that
Mr.
he did.
Clinton today. Well, I think we've been on about 2 hours.
Heck if I know, have we? Okay, well, in that case,
You can take
bye.